So you've got a close friend who loves books, and your friend tells you that you got to get into reading the classics. And so they give you their list, their top 5 list of books to start reading. Then you talk to someone else, another friend who loves classic literature, and they give you their list. And the lists look very similar. Everyone tells you got to start reading classics, and then often they proceed to give the exact same list every single time. These are generally the books on every high school curriculum, books on the majority of top 10 lists online. These are books that are universally considered must-reads for a number of reasons, but usually because they meet certain educators' idea of what introductory works into classic literature should look like. Now, besides the fact that those are very ill-defined terms, classic, introductory, what do we mean by that? Are these books that schools and online book enthusiasts alike usually pick as recommendations actually the best place to begin? It's an interesting question. Today I'm breaking down 5 classics that are probably over-recommended and 5 alternatives that you can read instead. So, let's start with the classics that everybody knows. The first one here, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, iconic story about justice growing up in the American South. This is obviously an important book. It's recommended because it teaches empathy, morality. It's got social justice themes. It's very accessible as a coming-of-age story. There's a number of reasons why this is frequently assigned in schools, but this is one that if you ask online for people to give you their top recommendations, this one comes up a lot. Another one here, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think this one is recommended a lot because it is short, stylish, but has some interesting symbolism that can be really interesting to explore. That's the main reason why it's recommended. It's so iconic. It introduces readers to that literary symbolism in the American jazz age and questions about what it is to dream the American dream. Another one here, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is a beloved social comedy. It's a romance. It does have older language that might slow some readers down for sure, but I think this is recommended because Jane Austen's one of the great writers. It's got a lot of wit. It is culturally recognizable as an introduction to classics. It's been made into a lot of films, and sometimes just the fact that something is so familiar makes it more recommendable. Other people will recommend it because it's been recommended, and that familiarity leads to a snowball effect. It's also a great book. 1984 by George Orwell. So a dystopian classic, heavy themes, culturally essential. Of course, I think this is mostly recommended because it's got that iconic dystopian feel, and it explores politics, freedom, totalitarianism. It's an anti-authoritarian novel that was written at a time when the United States and the Soviet Union were fighting the Cold War. So I do think that was a reason that initially became a classic, but it has staying power because it feels culturally essential, and also it's widely referenced in media. So those are some of the reasons I think 1984 is so widely recommended. And the last one here, Lord of the Flies by William Golding. So this is gripping, intense, it's very dark, of course. I think it's recommended due to that, it's got that gripping dramatic nature, of course, psychologically intense story of human nature. A lot of people disagree whether that it's actually a good depiction of human nature, but regardless of whether or not you think this is the best depiction of what would happen to kids on an island, abandoned, it's short, it's impactful, and I think that's one of the reasons that is highly recommended or highly recommendable. Now, these books are all amazing, truly, and I can confidently recommend all of them as well. So I guess I'm a part of the problem here, but they aren't necessarily the right starting place for everybody. And I think that's part of the reason why, even though they're famous for a reason, clearly, as the British poet W.H. Auden said, some books are undeservedly forgotten, none are undeservedly remembered. All these books are undeservedly remembered, but lest we forget a lot of other really great classics, there's a whole world of classics out there that offer different experiences, different styles, different ideas. Here are 5 less recommended classics, less explored, that I think really, they have equal value. And I hope that more people will give these books a try. So the first up here is Brave New World. Aldous Huxley, was a precursor to George Orwell, and this is one that's often put toe-to-toe with 1984, which makes sense. It's a fascinating dystopia, super readable. I recommend this because it's super engaging and has a very sharp social commentary. Short, readable, very relevant today. I think it's overshadowed by 1984, but its explorations of hedonism, the consumer-driven society that Huxley was, I guess, warning about for the future, comfort and stability over freedom, that idea that humans would seek those rather than freedom and individuality. I think in many ways, Brave New World's actually a more honest social commentary of the world we live in today than the authoritarianism in 1984. So I highly recommend, instead of just reading 1984, you take a look at Brave New World, read them both if you have time, but Brave New World is one I always recommend to people. And I think this is, it's becoming more popular as well, which is really great, but that's a really good one to start. Another one here, Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. So Beckett is an amazing playwright. He's written in other styles as well. But Waiting for Godot, I think, is a great place to start. It's short, it's absurdist, it's really dark, funny. So if you're looking for a kind of dark, funny, sad, funny, it's not really sad, I guess. Tragicomic, I guess, would be the word that literary types would use. I recommend this. It's an absurdist masterpiece. Very philosophical. It's often skipped because it's a play, right? And a lot of times we recommend novels to people when we get them to start classics, but plays and poems are just as important. Beckett's an essential playwright. He's brilliant. His play Endgame is also excellent, but I would highly recommend starting with Waiting for Godot. And I think it's a classic that a lot of people will find resonates with them, maybe in a different way than a lot of the other ones that are commonly touted as first read classics. The next one here, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. So I actually read this one not too long ago. It's beautiful, very lyrical, the way it's written. The way Hurston writes feels very, very close, feels very immediate. Her understanding of humanity, of what it is to be human, I don't know, it's just so unique. And there's something about that resonated with me. She doesn't explore so much only characters in a place and time, but like the eternal questions that are in characters that are set in a place and time. And I think most great works need to do this. So I really love this work. I think it's one of the great works of the Harlem Renaissance, and it was largely forgotten for a long time, right? Even though it explores all these deep human themes as rich characters, it's largely under-recommended due to this historical neglect. And fortunately, it's been rediscovered, and it's one that's being recommended a lot more. But I would put it up there with any of those classics that are read in high school, and I think this is a really great one, very short as well, that I can highly recommend. Another one here is not actually a novel. This one is, well, it's a novel, but it's a nonfiction novel. It's a bit of a trailblazer in terms of the genre, and the one I'm talking about is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. So this is like a true crime, in many ways a cutting-edge true crime story told like a novel, right? It's really gripping, and from the very beginning, this is one that's super fun. I recommend this, as a pioneering nonfiction work. I also recommend this as brilliant storytelling. Capote is often overlooked. He's a brilliant writer, but he's often overshadowed by his contemporary, Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. So this is the other side of that, in the same way that Brave New World is to 1984 what Capote is to Harper Lee in my strange little book recommendation world for the purposes of this video right now. I think that he is a superior writer in terms of the perfection of his prose. I love To Kill a Mockingbird, and I think Harper Lee's story is deeply impactful, and the long-term impact of it was probably far greater, and probably will remain far greater than the writings of Capote, because what she wrote about was such an important component of the human experience. But that is separate from the actual writing style, so I highly recommend reading this work because Capote just writes like nobody. He's so good, and I'm a huge fan of his writing style. Breakfast at Tiffany's is also great, but I think I would recommend starting here, In Cold Blood. And the last one here that I'll recommend is, honestly, you could read anything by Kafka. He's so unique, so trailblazing, so readable and fun. But I would start with the Metamorphosis, another really short one. It's bizarre, right? Super unforgettable. You'll read it and it'll stay with you for a long time afterwards. It really bends your mind as well. I think this is really perfect as an introduction to modernist literature. Obviously, it's overshadowed by a lot of more famous works, becoming more popular again. None of these works is particularly obscure. All of them are definitely still, if you ask anyone about them, considered classics. But definitely overshadowed by the more recommended classics. And, I think that all these books are compelling, packed with ideas, and they will get you hooked on classics. They don't feel overwhelming. They're fun, they're readable, they're unique, they're meaningful. So there you have it, the 5 classics everyone starts with on the one hand, and 5 more that I think you might enjoy just as much, if not more, that are very meaningful. So what would you pick up to start your classics journey? Comment below. I want to hear which one you'd read first. And a quick note here before I let you guys go, I've just added memberships to this channel. If you enjoy these book videos and want to support them continuing, there are now 2 simple ways to do that. The first is as a book supporter, just a small way to say thanks and keep this channel going. And the second is in the book circle for people who want to be a bit more involved, helping shape what I read and what videos I make next through polls, reading ideas. No pressure at all either way. Everything on this channel will always stay free. This is just for people who want to support me or be a bit closer in the book conversation. Either way, I'm really glad that you're here and I hope this video was valuable. Take care.